Komala was the second Australian Pokemon ever created. 20 years after Kangaskhan released, Australian Pokemon fans were thrilled at this all-new representative of our nation. And this turned out to be a pretty spot-on adaptation of our iconic national animal in Pokemon form. Komala has the signature ability Comatose, which means it is considered to be asleep at all times, very accurate to real koalas. The stat distribution is well considered too, with poor defenses and low speed, just like real koalas, but a surprisingly high physical attack stat. I can tell you from experience that this is accurate. Koalas can be dangerous, and much like real koalas, this little guy is unfortunately not very competitively viable. Koalas need a lot of support to prevent them from going endangered with their poor survival skills and all that time spent sleeping. And to nobody's surprise, Komala is a pretty weak choice in the Pokemon world as well, compared to all of the other powerful, fantastical creatures available. Komala was ranked ZU in its debut game, which is the lowest possible usage-based tier a Pokemon can be ranked in. Komala was not available in Gen 8 because he hates the UK, but in Gen 9 he returned to his rightful home in the ZU tier once again. However, in the greatest underdog story of all time, a player named Tio Chico on the Smogon forums saw potential in the unique tools offered by Komala and actually used this Pokemon in the OU tier, achieving an impressive number 9 ladder position. It turns out that Komala just so happens to be a really effective answer to the most popular Dragapult set in the metagame right now, a set that is really dominating Gen 9 OU. On top of this, Komala has a nice combination of utility that no other Pokemon can provide. Let's explore how this beautiful Australian animal has climbed to greater heights than anyone could have imagined. But first, an important announcement. Koalas are a species of animal that have been falsely maligned by many for their low intellect and questionable behavior, such as consuming poisonous leaves. I consider these to be slanderous claims towards an iconic Australian animal. But what many don't realize is that koalas actually have a secret skill up their sleeve to set themselves apart from fellow fauna, and that is gaming. Koalas are among the most skilled gamers in the entire animal kingdom, despite what bad actors might tell you about their poor hand-eye coordination. This particular koala right here is gaming, folks, and his success cannot be denied. In my all-new Jimothy Cool merchandise, I have anointed this talented koala to represent the values of gamers across the world. The We're Gaming Folks merchandise line consists of wonderful shirts, hoodies, caps, and even a mug. This high-quality clothing is comfortable and looks excellent. Treat yourself to some of the most cutting-edge items in the world of fashion on jimothycool.com. These items will be available for sale until August 18th. Thank you. Komala's ability, Comatose, sounds like a complete joke, but this is actually one of the best abilities in the entire game. Although Komala is considered to be asleep at all times, unlike other sleeping Pokemon, it can still act and use all of its moves as if it were awake. In Pokemon, only one status condition can be applied at any given time, so because Komala is already considered to be asleep, it is effectively immune to all status ailments, and that is the biggest benefit of it. There are some other funny quirks to this ability. The moves Sleep, Talk, and Snore can only be used when your Pokemon is sleeping, and Komala is sleeping, so it can just use them. There aren't that many practical applications for this, but there is one that's interesting. There is a move called Last Resort with 140 base power, but it will fail unless the Pokemon has used every other move in their moveset. If a Pokemon's only move is Last Resort, the move will also fail. It has to use at least one other move and then Last Resort. So Komala can use a set with Sleep Talk and Last Resort as its only moves. Komala can use Sleep Talk, which works because it's sleeping technically, and this will immediately activate Last Resort because you have no other moves. With a Choice Band equipped, this can actually hit really hard, and this was a gimmicky set that you could use in Gen 7 1v1. But the primary benefit of Comatose is that status immunity, and that's what makes Komala such a great switch-in against the popular Will-O-Wisp plus Hex Dragapult set. Komala is completely immune to getting burned by Will-O-Wisp because it's already sleeping, and it's completely immune to Hex because it's a normal type. This Dragapult set really relies on spreading burn and dealing damage to status enemies with Hex, so being able to halt this game plan completely with Komala is actually quite useful. And there's a lot Komala can do once it hits the field against Dragapult. Komala has access to the ever-valuable Knockoff, which is a much more scarce option in Gen 9. Dragapult really doesn't want to stay in on this, not only because of the super effective damage, but losing heavy-duty boots or other important items can be absolutely game-losing. In fact, nothing really loves coming in on Knockoff because of the overall importance of held items. Komala also has access to Rapid Spin, and that is pretty fantastic in a world where hazard removal is extremely scarce. And it really helps to be a Rapid Spinner with access to Knockoff, because you threaten those ghost types that are able to block Rapid Spin, like Dragapult and Goldango. And the one other useful utility option that Komala has access to is Wish. This is another really useful option to have, not only to heal yourself up, but to support your team and give them safe entry points. What's really nice about Komala compared to other Pokemon with abilities that grant status immunity, like Purifying Salt, is that it can't actually be cancelled by ability altering effects. The ability Mold Breaker is able to ignore enemy abilities, and will allow you to use Toxic against something like Garganacl, who has Purifying Salt, bypassing their status immunity. But that isn't the case with Komala. This Komala is hard-coded to be asleep, and nothing will wake him up. Even effects like Worry Seed or Skill Swap that aim to disrupt Pokemon abilities don't work against Komala. Some teams do use mechanics like this to disrupt enemies such as Garganacl. So having Komala up your sleeve can actually be pretty fantastic against this. Any slower utility Pokemon that relies on status to make progress can invite in Komala. And with Komala in, it's going to spread knockoff, removing key items, clear hazards, or heal up a teammate with Wish. All three of these things are extremely useful. So putting Komala on this more defensive Stoli team really worked. It bypasses a lot of anti-stall technology, matches up well into the Dragapult Will-O-Wisp Hex set, which is a popular stall breaker, and can even punish enemy stall teams with all of its fantastic immunities. A slightly unfortunate quirk about Komala's ability though is that if you ever choose to Terrastalize, you are now vulnerable to Dragapult's Hex. Even though the Dragapult cannot Will-O-Wisp you, you are asleep, which means you are statused, and Hex deals double damage to statused Pokemon. So without that normal typing granting you immunity to Hex, you actually can get broken through by the thing you're supposed to counter, if you choose to Terrastalize. For this reason, Dark is the Terra type of choice for Komala on this team, to at least maintain that ghost resistance and for its useful defensive value against enemies like Slowking Galar using Future Sight or certain stored power sweepers. Terra Dark also enhances the damage of Knockoff, which comes up sometimes. Komala is not often going to be the Pokemon you choose to Terrastalize with, but this Terra Dark actually did win a very important game at the high ladder for Tio Chico. They Terrastalized Dark on the exact turn that a Future Sight attack was about to hit, granting immunity to it and prompting a forfeit from the opponent immediately. I think that this use of Komala on a stall team is a brilliant adaptation to the rise of Will-O-Wisp Hex Dragapult. For a niche Pokemon like this to have success in OU, usually needs to counter some specific metagame threat and provide a bit more value on top of that. And Komala certainly does, with that status immunity coming up quite often, along with the great combination of item removal, hazard removal, and healing. Many evil individuals will tell you that koalas are a foolish animal for choosing to spend so much of their day asleep. But look at Komala. This Pokemon's greatest strength is that it is so well rested. Komala resides in the land of dreams, where it is immune to all the perils of modern society, such as health ailments and being hexed by ghosts. A little sleeping koala is going toe-to-toe with some of the greatest Pokemon in the franchise's history, and I think that's wonderful. It has been said that if you snooze, you lose, but Komala has proven the opposite to be true.